Hello, good morning, Assalamu alaikum, my dears. So, hope you all are doing well. So, we have come somewhat to the close of Derrida and deconstruction. So, today we'll be starting with the essay of Derrida that you have been prescribed in your syllabus. That is Structure, Sign and Play in the Discourse of Human Sciences. It is an essay by Jacques Derrida. So today's class, I hope to go through the basics and the context of the essay. So moving to the context of the essay or the background of the essay, these are some of the facts to keep in mind. That this was the essay. It was actually it was a lecture that was delivered by Jacques Derrida at the Johns Hopkins University in the year 1966. So actually it was at this university at a function where this discussion or seminar was going on about the structuralism, which was a new theory at the time. So this lecture was delivered by Jacques Derrida at the Johns Hopkins University in the year 1966. Later, the same lecture, it was published as the 10th chapter in his famous book, Writing and Difference, in the year 1967. Okay, so basically what he was trying to say was, as we have already gone through the basics of deconstruction, we know what are the basic arguments or the concepts that were put forward by Derrida. So the lecture was published in Writing and Difference in 1967. He argued against the history of philosophy, which was based on logocentrism. Logocentrism, where the center was actually reason or language, which was given importance rather than emotion. So he was saying that all the philosophy, all Western philosophy were logocentric. So he was arguing against it. For him, language was very highly subjective. Subjective means it was solely dependent on the reader to interpret it, to have meaning. Okay, so actually Derrida in the essay, he is trying to tell us what he owns to Saussure, Ferdinand de Saussure. At the same time, he is telling us why he diverges from the concept of structuralism. Okay, so I think we'll move on to the next slide here, which we will be going into detail into the content of the essay. So the essay begins, actually Derrida begins the essay by referring to an event which perhaps occurred in the history of the concept of structure. So he is saying when this structuralism was introduced, somewhere along the way an event occurred, which changed everything. So this event is called the rupture or the post-structuralist turn. Rupture means a breaking, an explosion or a break, etc. So this event, which he calls the rupture, it is the post-structuralist turn. That is where deconstruction comes. So somewhere along the way in the study of structure, this kind of a rupture occurred, this break took place, this turn from the logic of structuralism. That is, structuralism was the logic of structuralism turned against itself. Okay, so we know how structure was defined and how the logic of structuralism became opposed to itself, how Derrida says such a structure cannot exist. Anyway, he questions the basic metaphysical concept of Western philosophy, that there is a fixed center for any structure. That was basically what structuralism was saying. So he questions this basic metaphysical concept that there is a center. We have already gone through in the last classes, we have I think covered more than 4 classes on deconstruction alone. So you basically know what is a center and what happens when there is a center. Okay, when you imagine discourse or imagine society as such, and it has a center, for example, if the center is God, okay, and how God is the center of the structure, and God decides what happens. So he is deciding what happens to humans, or he is deciding the way of life, or God has set down certain rules and we all are following that rule. So we are within that system, a structure, within a structure where God is the center. But if God is inside the center, then he cannot, what can we say, if God is inside the center, then he too will be governed by the rules of the center, right? But as we know, God is transcendental. We don't see God. So God is nowhere inside the structure. Actually, God is somewhere outside the structure. So that is when he says that the center is not inside the center is simultaneously inside and also outside the center. So the center, actually, this point that I've written here, the center limits free play that it makes possible. That is, center is not really the center. Limits free play meaning the freedom of within this structure. So you don't have much free play within the structure because of this center. The center has decided certain rules and or certain concepts which are being followed inside the structure. So free play is limited. Okay, free play meaning basically the freedom. Okay, so center is not really the center because it is not inside the structure, it is outside. Okay, so center is not always inside the structure, and God is just an example I have stated here. This is the basic example we always give for center. It has to be outside the center to limit free play. Okay, so if you cannot stay inside the structure and look who is going outside. Okay, correct. If you imagine a circle, the center cannot decide who is going out. Correct. So the center has to be somewhere outside the structure to decide who is to guard the boundaries or to limit free play, to look who is going outside. So the problem of the center, it attempts to exclude others, ignore, repress, or marginalize others. So this was the basic problem of structure, center in a structure, that is structuralism limited free play. When you're talking about lion, when you have the concept of lion, and as I told you in structuralism, sign, signifier, signified, this within a structure you have limited meanings, right? But actually it is limitless. There should be free play. There should not be a center. That is what Derrida is saying. Center actually limits free play. Now, what caused this rupture, or what are the reasons for this rupture that occurred in the growth of structuralism? So, three major figures before Derrida, they were responsible for the rupture: Nietzsche, Freud, and Heidegger. These were the three main critics or the main figures who have contributed to this rupture, but it was incomplete in a way. Nietzsche's critique of metaphysics and that of being and truth, in which Nietzsche said that God is dead. God is dead meaning, if there is a God, the structure is strong, right? If God is dead, then there is actually limitless free play. You can do anything. So it actually opens up new possibilities. It does not mean that God is dead concept does not really mean a kind of what can we say, atheistic concept is being brought about here, but it says it simply refers to the concept that the structure becomes limitless. Also, Freud's critique of self-presence, Heidegger's destruction of metaphysics, of ontology, the determination of being as presence. All these just points you have to note down. The three names you have to know who were responsible for the rupture. These are all points or what comes within the essay. Okay, Derrida's essay. So these are the points that are discussed. All the slides that I'm going to show in the next comes within points that are discussed in the essay. And then we have Derrida speaking of the synchronic and diachronic study. You know what is synchronic and diachronic. So Derrida looks at structures both diachronically and synchronically. Diachronically meaning historically. Synchronically meaning sync, that is within the same time space. Okay. For example, the center of human society, it shifted from God to Renaissance, man. in the episteme or in the era of Renaissance, the center shifted from God to man. So this kind of a shift in the center, I told you that God is not a fixed center. Every time the center keeps on changing. So this shift in center is only diachronically. Only historically this center can shift, changes, right? So at a given point, that is at a given point in time, that is at one point in time, the center of the structure cannot be substituted by various permutations, by various combinations. Okay, so at a given point of time, in every structure the center will be the same, but historically the center can get replaced. That is, at one given era the center will be the same, but in the next era or in the next age the center might get replaced. So just the point you have to note here is that Derrida is looking at the study of structures both diachronically and synchronically, and he is saying diachronically, that is historically center can change, but synchronically center will not change. Now next, moving on to the concept of decentering. Okay, that is the basic concept of deconstruction. So in the essay also he is saying about this concept of decentering, and he is arguing that this initiation of the process of this decentering actually is a basic feature of the modern era. Modern era means the process of decentering had started somewhere in the modern era. For example, he is giving references like First World War, which destroyed the illusion of steady progress. So a kind of a disillusionment started creeping into the people's mind, and people started looking at everything with skepticism, with doubt. They started losing trust in each other. The Holocaust, the theory of relativity, modernism, all these are examples of this process of decentering starting. So somewhere around in the modern age, people started losing this concept of center, this need for center. But Derrida is saying that all these attempts at decentering, all these attempts by various people at decentering were, however, trapped in a sort of a circle. It means that it could not be completed. They were going round and round. It was not completely attained. Actually, with the removal of center, it is only with the complete removal of center that infinite play takes place. Infinite play meaning limitless, without any limit. So limitless play can take place only with the removal of center. In the next slide also we are again discussing about the concept, this basic construct of the concept of decentering, which is said in the essay itself, that he is saying that each sign defines itself with respect to other signs, showing that there is no center. And in this case, even transcendental signifier needs to be defined with the respect to other signs. So when this decentering occurs, when there is no center, what happens? Look at the point. Each sign defines itself with respect to other signs. When you have the word lion in your, when you hear the word lion or when you see the word lion, many images can come to your mind with respect to other signs. So it keeps on changing. That there is no center. You cannot say you have to think, when I tell lion, this is the lion you have to imagine. No, there is no center. So it keeps on differing. And even the transcendental signifier needs to be defined with respect to other signs. Transcendental signifier means the signifiers that we don't see. For example, God. Apple is a sign that we can see, right? Transcendental signifier means a signifier that is beyond our consciousness. So something that we cannot see. Transcendental, it is beyond. So even because we don't have this image of God, this sign is not there, still we have this concept there, right? So that is a transcendental signifier. So even that, without a center, everything is being deferred. It keeps on delaying. So there is no structure and everything becomes a discourse. Now, one important fact to note here is that Derrida does not actually ask you to do away with the structures. That is what is meant by do away with structures. He does not say to completely remove structures. He's not saying that, abolish all structures, no need of any structure. No, that is not what he's saying. Okay, so Derrida does not actually say that there should not be structure. He's not saying to remove all structures. In fact, what Derrida is suggesting that the necessity of people, that we have this necessity to keep a structure for discourse to take place. You know, you need a structure if there is to be a discourse. Okay, so this necessity of what is this, the need for a structure is what is highlighted here by Derrida, and he says that without this having this limitless free play, it can actually take place through the what can we say, lack of center or origin. Now meaning becomes continually deferred. Meaning becomes continually deferred. I hope you remember deference and all. So he explains the possibility of free play through the concept of supplementality. Supplementality is what? Something that replaces the lack in others. Okay, it is because of this free play that you can bring in everything what can substitute as a supplement. So it is possible because of free play. So this free play is permitted by the lack of center or origin. So because there is no center, this supplementality and free play is allowed. Now meaning becomes continually deferred. Deferred meaning changed, delayed. I hope you remember differing and deferring. So deferring meaning becomes continually, deferred meaning delayed. You look up one word in the dictionary, you get another word, and you look up that word in the dictionary, you get many other synonyms. So the meaning keeps on becoming delayed or deferred. So that is one conclusion that Derrida reaches. So actually we have not completed the essay. We'll need one more class to complete the essay. Now a few more points just to wind up the essay we have. So I think I'll stop today's class with this point, this concept of decentering. So we have only gone through the basic context of the essay, the background of the essay, where it was delivered, and the importance of the essay, and we spoke of the content of the essay, in which Derrida is saying that there was an event or a rupture that took place, which was actually the post-structuralist turn. That is the deconstruction, where structuralism was criticized. And he is arguing against this Western philosophy, where concept of center, where there should be a fixed center for any structure, and he's saying how center limits free play, how center is not really the center is not inside the structure. I gave you the example of God, and the center has to be outside the center to limit free play. So simultaneously center is both inside and outside. So the problem of the center is that it is excluding others. So, and also we spoke of the three major figures who were responsible for the rupture, that is Nietzsche, Freud, Heidegger. These were philosophers who came before, who were in a way responsible for this concept of deconstruction. And then we had this concept of synchronic and diachronic study, and Derrida's concept of decentering, the importance of decentering, how it has been taking place since World War I, how this disillusionment and people did not want the center, and this concept of decentering began. And he's saying how decentering or removal of the center can actually give infinite possibility, infinite meaning, possibilities of meaning, and meaning becomes deferred continually. Okay, so thank you girls, keep smiling.